Today we're going to mix a color wheel, and this color wheel is mixed with 3 colors only, and I am using Winsor Newton, Permanent Rose, New Gamboge is a yellow, and my blue is Antwerp Blue. And I've mixed my 3 primary colors and applied them to my color wheel. You may use your color wheel on this paper that's included, and it'll wrinkle really bad. If you have a 90-pound watercolor paper or a lower number, you can run it through your copy machine, and that's what I've done. Is I put on a 90-pound, and that wrinkles pretty bad anyway, but it's okay to use for this. And even cardstock would work because it's a heavier paper. Now, I've mixed my 3, or applied my 3 main colors, and I'll repeat: Permanent Rose, New Gamboge, and Antwerp Blue, and they're Winsor Newton colors. So any red, yellow, and blue will work if they're not too mixed with other colors, if they're kind of pure colors. Okay. Now, what we want to do, we've got the 3 primaries on here, and you can mix the world of colors with these 3 tubes of paint. The first year and a half I did watercolors, that's all I used were these 3 primaries. And I always have them on my palette. Even though I use many convenience colors, I have them there because I know if I don't have the right convenient color that squirts right out of the tube, I can mix it from these 3. Okay, now we're going to mix the secondary colors. And how do you do that? Well, to get orange, we want to mix the 2 colors that are outside the orange range. So that would be yellow and red, and that equals orange. So mix your yellow with some red, and I want to say equal amounts, but it doesn't always work equal amounts, but it's pretty close. Now I've got an orange, so now I'm going to just apply 1 brush width of that color. I'm not really trying to fill in the whole space, but just to get the color on there. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here and mix my next secondary color, which is green. And mixing yellow and blue will give you a green. So I'm going to mix my blue and yellow together and make a nice, strong green. Okay. And apply that in your green slot. The next secondary color is violet or purple, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to mix my blue and my red together, and I will get the violet. So here's some blue, and here's some red. And I've got a pretty good purple in there. Oops. And put that right in here. Okay. Then I will get my paper dry, because I know if I don't, and I put a color here, it's going to run into these 2. So I will put the hair dryer on it. Now I'm going to mix my intermediary colors, and the other word for this is tertiary colors. But if you just think of the word intermediate, you'll know that they are intermediate between the red and the red-orange, and the yellow and the yellow-green, and the blue and the blue-violet. And up on your pattern that I've given you, it has the names of where to place them, and this one says red-orange. So I'm going to mix some more red into my orange. Maybe put a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. Let's see, let me test it on a piece of paper. I want to make sure that it's different than that. Yeah, it is. Okay. And then I will apply that in here. Remember, watercolors dry lighter, so it will be a little bit lighter than that when it dries. And now my yellow-orange is next. So I will add more yellow into that same pile that I was just working with. And place it right here where it says yellow-orange. And it leans a little more yellow than this one does. Then the next one is yellow-green. I don't have much green mixed, so I may have to put a little more blue in there and then pick up some yellow. Kind of contaminates your paint, but that's okay. For this exercise, I always resisted mixing a color wheel for a very long time, and I finally did it with one of my favorite oil painting teachers, Anne Kingsland, and never regretted 1 minute that I spent on it, because I did learn a lot by doing it. Okay, so there's my yellow-green. Now between green and blue, you're going to end up with a blue-green mix. So I'm going to put some blue into this mix. I could start the mixes from scratch each time, but I'm kind of adjusting it. Now I got back to the green that I originally had, so I'm going to put more blue into it. Maybe got a little too much. I might need a little more yellow back in there. Yep, that's better. Now we're going to put the blue-green in here. Okay, that's good. You see the variation? There's yellow-green, green, blue-green. Okay, now we come over here, and between the blue and the violet, we have blue-violet. So I'm going to start this one out here with lots of blue. Or actually, I could just take my blue and put it into the purple mix I was originally working with. And that will give me a blue-violet. So basically it's blue and red, but more blue. Okay, and that gives you a blue-violet. Next time I want a red-violet. So here's red, here's violet, and I've made my violet. I have a blue-violet here, and if I put enough red back into it, I should get a red-violet. And this is one of the colors that I use often. I have it in a tube, and it's called red-violet. And that's what I call a convenience color. But as you see, you can mix it from these three. quite easily. Okay, now I'm going to get this dry, and you can mix all the way down to the center of the wheel, and this is what happens. It neutralizes the color. And how do you do that? Well, every color has a complement, and the complement is always directly across from the color. For instance, here is red and here is green. They're directly across from each other. If you ran a black line between the two, it would go right here. Okay, so red and green are complements. Now think of this. Think of Christmas. The advertisers use this all the time. Red and green are the Christmas colors. And when they're placed side by side, they evoke excitement. And the advertisers, as I said, use this. They use violet and yellow for Easter, and basically blue and orange for Halloween, because the blue goes toward the black, and it's the darkest combination. So if you can remember what the advertisers use to create excitement, that helps you to remember what the complements are. Red is across from green, yellow is across from purple, and blue is across from orange. Okay, so everything else falls in between those two. Now, not only when they're used straight do they create excitement, but when they're put into each other, as far as a mix is concerned, they tone each other down. So let's try that. Let's try it once, and you can make many values of it. And the red we'll start out with, and we'll put a little bit of green into it. So I'm just going to pick up that green that I've already got mixed here and add it into the red. And look what happens. I start with a violet, right? Okay, now a toned down red anyway. Now what if I put more green into it? And what's the green? The green is my blue and my yellow. And I would get all those different shades of reds, but also I get a neutral. And there is a beautiful neutral brown. They almost all mix to browns, and they all together will mix to a black. Now, I'm going to go through the browns first, and then I'll show you how to mix black. Okay, the orange and the blue are probably my favorite blacks and my favorite browns. Let's put it this way. Okay, I need more orange. Here we go. Okay, now we got a nice brown, and this goes where my orange and blue. Okay, so here's the orange, and here's the nice strong brown that I've got. It's kind of a little deader brown, but think about painting a tree. You'd want both of those browns in it. Okay, now the next primary will be violet, and violet often goes to the grays. So we'll start out with our violet. Let's take this in, put it back here, and make just a purple first, because that's what we're thinking of, right? We're going to start with the purple, and then we're going to add yellow, because yellow neutralizes the purple. Now, I'm going to do two things here. Well, let's see, we'll do it on the purple side, and then we'll do it on the yellow side. And that way you'll get both ideas. Okay, I can get a brown, a very nice brown. very kind of toned down brown, or I can get a grayed brown if I put a little more blue into that. I'm going to go outside the color wheel here to show you. Get a nice gray brown. I could go inside, but it's harder to see it in there, so I put it outside, okay? And you can do that with all three of them as well. All right, now I'm going to go to the yellow side and start mostly with yellow this time. And then add in a little bit of purple to it, because purple neutralizes the yellow. Now, what you'll see here is something like yellow ochre. I'll put it outside, but see how it is a nice toned down yellow, and a little more of the red and the blue into that, and you will get a raw sienna. Okay, so this is why I don't have very many browns on my palette, because they're so easy to mix, and I like to save my spaces on my palette for the colors that I really can't mix or prefer not to. Okay, so the same holds true for your secondary colors. For instance, if you took blue-green and went across from it, red-orange would be its complement, and that they would neutralize each other. If you took yellow-green, red-violet would be across from it. Now here's how I remember. I learn the first primaries and the second secondaries. So I learned red, yellow, blue, orange, green, and violet. And when I'm looking at something that is yellow-orange, I say to myself, yellow, violet, orange, blue. So I know what to go for. So if I have a yellow, orange, I know that I need a blue, violet. So it's pretty simple. And if you just can commit the primaries and secondaries to your memory, you will be okay. Okay, so my orange, I put browns in all three of these, and now I'm going to show you how to mix black. To mix black, I take a pretty good size amount of Antwerp blue, and I'm using a palette knife just on a piece of acetate, and I mix it until I see purple. And let me test it. I like to mix it without water because that tones it down. Yep, that's a good purple. And then I use an even smaller amount. By smaller, I mean it was smaller than the amount of red, and put a little bit of yellow in that. And the yellow neutralizes purple, which is its complement. Starting to see a nice gray in there. And let's see what I've got. Definitely a black. Now, the more water you put into this, the lighter the gray will be. So you'll get various shades of gray like that, but you can see that it definitely leans to black. Now, when I do this mix, I usually put it into a small container, or I'll put it on a permanent place in my palette and just access it when I need it. Oftentimes, if I mix black, it's because I'm going to do a black background and I need quite a bit. So then I'll put it into just a small container with a lid. But let me show you how black it will go. Okay. So if you wanted a beautiful, vibrant black background on a painting, that is how you would get it. Now you can brush mix this too. The only reason it's a little more difficult is that you usually have to carry water on your brush, and then that thins it down to the gray shades. But this is how you mix black. So you really don't ever have to buy black. In fact, I highly recommend you don't, because they're never quite as vibrant as this black is. So I hope you will get intrigued by the colors, and if nothing else, at least mix this many. But if you have the time and like to play around with it, then mix all the neutral ones in between. For instance, take your orange and add some more of the complement into it, or less of the complement, and get something between this brown and orange, and you'll find that it's a pretty rust color. And with the red violet, you can mix the red violet and yellow green together, and that gives you a nice neutral, almost grays. And just keep going around there and see what you get, and explore, and put colors outside of your wheel. This is not for display. This is for you. So it doesn't matter if it gets messy or it doesn't look, you don't stay inside the lines. Now, a couple more tips. First of all, let's review what we did. We started with the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. We mixed the secondary colors, which were orange, purple, and green. Then we went to the intermediary colors, or intermediate colors. And that is one primary and one secondary. So that means that all three colors mix to make your neutrals. There's all three colors in those. So complementary colors are directly across from each other on the color wheel. They either are used to tone each other down, or when next to each other they vibrate. And a very important thing that I learned was colors recede into each other when they are similar, both in value and temperature. So what that means is, if you've got a warm background and you're trying to push some flowers or leaves back into it, if they're a little bit warm and similar in value, they will go back. If you are trying to push something back into a cool background, then whatever you paint near that background, make it cool, and it will recede into the cool background. Okay, so I have drawn a temperature line for you on here, and there's a lot of ways to explain temperatures. For instance, a blue would be on the cool side of the wheel, as well as a blue violet. But if you compare the blue to the blue violet, and you're trying to figure out which one is cooler and which one is warmer, well, the one that has the warmer color in it is warmer. So in this case, what does it have in it? It has red in it. So that makes the blue violet warmer. Okay? Same way going the other way. If you've got blue and blue-green, which one has the warm color in it? The blue-green has yellow in it. So that makes that one warmer next to the straight blue. And so on and so forth. Okay, yes, warmer. So even though you've got a cool side to the wheel, when you compare one color to the next, one can be warmer and one can be cooler. Same thing on this side of the wheel. Even though it's a warm wheel, for instance, if the yellow has yellow-green in it, then the yellow will be warm, yellow-green will be the cooler one. Orange or red-orange, same thing is true there. Now, I happen to think that orange is the hottest color you can have, even though it's a combination of red and yellow, and it's directly across from blue. And blue is the coolest color you can have. Orange is the warmest color you can have. Okay, I hope you enjoy the color wheel, and I hope it helps you to understand how you can paint with just 3 colors.